Begin.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Will Mason, and I'm here to speak about my study. It's called, or titled, Analysis on Amazon's Automation Practices and How That Affects Local Communities. Let's get started. All right. So, the problem statement I addressed in my presentation of my study was that automation in major companies, such as Amazon, can hurt communities through means such as unemployment and detraction from small businesses. So through this, I mean that since Amazon is such a large company with many resources, that they have developed a thing called automation, and automation can really hurt these small companies since they don't have access to it as easily as Amazon does. Since automation can remove the need for paying workers and overtime limits and work, violations and rights, that means that Amazon can get more work done faster than smaller companies can, because smaller companies must abide by things such as worker rights, paying workers, and other such stipulations. So I started to research this question. How does the effect of automation in Amazon warehouses change the community around that area, and how does that compare to its effect before automation? So basically this is just compare and contrast between how the area would be before automation and after automation in Amazon. So important terms to know. So here's some important terms you might have to know in order to understand my presentation to the fullest extent. So automation is the process of a task being done without human interference or aid. A robot is machinery that performs tasks that humans can also perform. Small businesses or local businesses in a community that are not owned by a corporation or other big entity, usually 1 or 2 per area. And Amazon, a major company that specializes in delivering goods. And also, and also delivers, other things and streams music and video. Okay, so here's an example of a robot we have here. This is Proteus, our residence delivery and warehouse robot. So Proteus is a robot who essentially takes these large parts, of this merchandise and organizes them and shelves them. And the thing about Proteus is that it's able to work with humans in a sense, as it has sensors that allow it to dodge human interference in these warehouses. So of course there'd be about, I would like to say 50 or 25, depending on the warehouse size, in each warehouse, this sorting products and shelving things in said warehouse. All right, I am assuming that 1, Amazon warehouse staff is reduced by some amount. B, unemployment or employment is directly correlated to Amazon warehouses in the area. And C, there is some impact on local businesses, usually negative impact is what I'm assuming. This research is significant because unemployment and deterioration of small businesses may be increased because of the increased automation of Amazon. So this is very bad because if small businesses are not supported, then lots of livelihoods would be at stake, because many entrepreneurs often rely on small businesses in order to succeed and grow to bigger corporations. And without these small businesses, then lots of livelihoods, mom and pop shops, the small businesses will either have to be taken in by bigger corporations, which leads to less freedoms for those businesses, or they would just have to not be in existence in the first place, which leads to, let's say, diversity in the marketplace and capitalism, which is obviously bad for this America's, capitalism as a whole, as there still is a lot of companies that reign supreme. So with less diversification of, the modern economy, it just be bad in general. So I have proposed to conduct a study of a community being affected by an automated warehouse by looking at different trend analysis and come up with a theory. So the method I use, so basically, for this you need main material, so you need something that you can research on. So anything that has internet access, like a laptop, PC, computer, tablets, whatever. So I first look at the sites where the information is gathered, which is the next slide. I then examined each category and the year where it took place. This is 2011, 2012, 2016, 2020, and 2021. I chose these dates because 2011 was the year before Amazon introduced automation as a whole. 2012 is when they first started using automation as a whole. 2016 is a nice medium point between the years I'll be using, so it just sets a kind of like growing pace for the study. 2020 is the year where the coronavirus took place, which led to a lot of employee layoffs, which obviously affected automation as many other companies used automation at the time. In 2021, because this leads to more like reintroduction of employees in the workplace, so that being affected. And afterwards, I examined databases in order to find information and common trends between the sources. Okay, so here are the data sources that I used. So the years before Amazon became automated and afterwards, which I used because, of course, as I said beforehand, it being in the timeline. So the unemployment census and the bankruptcy census, I got these from the official government website that they use, and they have free to anybody just the documents that recognize all the different bankruptcies and unemployments over the years, and even like some areas, like whether it be like more rural and urban populations, just how they were affected. Sometimes they're more frequent than other times, but that's besides the point. The Amazon annual report and USPS annual report shows things like employee size, annual income, share value, these general like plans into the directions they might want to go to. And yeah. Alright, going forward, I found information to fill out a spreadsheet to record different information on the study. I used the sheets for this, but Excel would work as well. I put this data in order to be displayed onto a table for it to be analyzed, and then I moved on to analyzing the data for the study. Then I plot this on a graph. I used the Nodal program to figure out the variance between the numbers, which you'll see soon. And as for my results thus far, it seems that at first Amazon lagging a bit behind other delivery companies, so after 2016, switched after 2020, they have surpassed these delivery companies. The unemployment and bankruptcy was also higher in 2011 and 2012, and 2020 and 2021 by a small margin. If we move on, I have to explain it further in depth. Okay, so bear with me here. So I'm going to go to this side to explain the numbers. So you might notice there's an E right next to these numbers. So basically that means that these numbers are very high up. They'd be around like millions and hundreds of millions, tens of millions. So for reference, the +6 would have around like 6 digits, while 7 would have 7 digits. So you can see that green would be the number of bankruptcies. And you can see all the way here that, you know, this, generally it's rather down. You know, it's not much, but you see a slow general decline of bankruptcies. So that's a good thing, since, you know, of course, you wouldn't want more bankruptcies over the years, so there's less and less of those. Now, the interesting part of this is the unemployed population. See, it's way high up over here in 2011. I presume this is because of the 2008 recession and how that affected just the general years going forward, and it really like resolved until like 2014, 2013. So it still affected a lot of people. That's why a lot of people are unemployed. 2012, it's still decreasing. Of course, it wasn't as high as before, but still very high, especially compared to like modern standards. And 2016, it hit just a low for this graph because it's a very like fairly stable, you know, economy. So there isn't many less unemployment just in general. And you can see over here is another spike in unemployment rates, but you can see that it's not as high as this. Despite it being like a global pandemic and people being forced to stay inside, there still is such like a varying spike that reaches up here, which is interesting. Of course, it falls back down to even below 2016, falling to 2021 rates. All right, now for comparison between Amazon and USPS's number of employees over the years. So this is just to compare how different rates are just affected. So you see that Amazon, of course, was the smallest company around the time of 2011. So because they wouldn't have many employees, of course, USPS topped by having over 500,000 employees at the time. And I'd say this would be about 50,000 is the 10th of the bar. Of course, actually it declined a little bit to around like more of like 500,000 exactly, while Amazon has been slowly growing. Of course, this remains stagnant over few years as having a full like 500,000 as a baseline per se. Of course, Amazon is slowly growing and further growing, eventually reaching like a very high number of over 1.5 million employees in total, which is a lot. Now, here's the Amazon estimated income versus the USPS estimated income. Of course, this income is in USD in millions. So there's 100,000 million and then 200,000 million, et cetera, et cetera. So of course, you can see that USPS has a general, this gradual increase over the years. It isn't very much, but still is there. And of course, as you see now, Amazon first starts out lower than USPS. Then over time, this gets higher and higher until it reaches just a record breaking, this 4.6, wait, not 4.6, it's like 4,600 million USD, which is insane. All right, next slide. The variance between Amazon between aspects of the automation show no correlation to subjects such as unemployment, bankruptcy, and rivaling companies. Whenever there is a significant increase or decrease in amount, usually due to other factors which don't include Amazon, such as the recession I talked about beforehand and just the popularity of delivery services. Conclusion. Amazon has had some significant effect on the jobs of American people. It could be said that there has been a positive effect actually since Amazon's workforce has been increasing, while also accounting for automation, as you said beforehand. It's just an overwhelming number of employees at Amazon in the first place. And local communities aren't harmed, as the communities themselves aren't affected as much as Amazon as one would presume, as local businesses are still, they're not doing like great, but they're still existing, and they're still thriving in their own ecosystems. So some future directions I hope the study could go in are like an analysis and competition of different delivery companies. I did not talk about UPS and FedEx, so I think more conversation about those and how it relates to USPS and Amazon would be great to further how delivery services correlate to automation as a whole. Amazon's success is a correlation between different economic landscapes that expand. So Amazon started in 1997, I'm 90% sure. So seeing how 1997 to now and how those economic, landscapes would affect how automation would be considered, as well as how much it would grow or decline depending on, of course, the landscape, and how different types of robots are implemented into Amazon's business model. We just went over Proteus for today, since it's the most common and popular robot, as it helps, shelf. But there's some other robots, such as Xpera, which is the big claw, which just takes merchandise and puts it into different areas. So, such as the prototype robots for Proteus and other things would be essential for this study going forward. All right. Thank you.
All right. Woo. Thank you. All right, you made it to approximately 13 and a half minutes for your talk, and I have some questions for you. My first question is, how did you figure out which results generated by your research method were most important in informing this new understanding?
So I just figured that whatever was most practical would be the most important in my study, since a lot of these business models just regulate, or income as shown here, since income is the most important factor in a company's success. So if I decide things such as income and the population of employees as those can either generate income or not generate income, depending on, the employees' work ethic and other things. So knowing how, income factors in, as well as things such as the unemployment rate, as of course unemployment, that means the demand for jobs has increased, which allows for these companies to, have more workers increasing their products, or either decrease the amount of demand for these services since there isn't much money to go around in the first place.
Okay. how did the limitations of your method or your data influence your understanding?
Okay, so a lot of information I was unable to get because all this information was either not shown to the public or just very hard to find without proper clearance, which I did not have since I was a high school student. So things such as like the exact number of robots would not be shown to me, different patents for things would not be shown, different like plans for the future would not be shown because of course I'm not in those companies, therefore I'm not allowed to see those things for obvious reasons. Even like some government stuff could not be shown, like how the government plans to regulate, to regulate different things would not be shown to me because they're classified.
So how did that affect your understanding of
So
your
basically, I
topic?
just had to circumvent these different things by having a more general overview of the subject itself, since I was getting to the nitty-gritty specifics. That I was able to find specificity in different things, such as using different correlations as saying, like, oh, the numbers of bankruptcies around these years match up with how much happened in, with income in other years. So by finding those correlations, I was able to determine just a theory of like, okay, if Amazon, of course, for the Amazon's unemployed population and the general population, it just influence how much income they would get because since the unemployed population isn't as high as in 2020, their income would obviously be higher.
Okay, thank you. Another question I have for you. If you could revisit this research process, what would you do differently and why?
I think I'd probably try to see if I could find some differing, I guess, not companies per se, but different, like a case study of one of these examples and see if anything could be found of that. Because I wasn't able to find any case studies, but I assume that there would be more and more case studies as time goes on. So if I were to revisit the study, I'd definitely find if there's any employees I could talk to or any managers I could see if that would affect anything in the study, such as how workers are being affected, how managers are being affected, new workplace policies and other things that would affect more like on the local side rather than the big corporation side, as I've been kind of leaning towards. So yes.
And my last question for you is, let's talk a little bit about your interactions with your expert advisor. How did your expert advisor facilitate your deeper understanding of your research process?
And so my expert advisor very much informed me of different economic events as they specialize in economy and other stuff. So they really helped me see how different economic events and landscapes would affect, of course, just the average person as well as big corporations, to see how those things correlate and how, of course, supply and demand of different things will lead to either increase or decrease of just wanting and not wanting and purchasing and other things of that nature.
Okay, thank you. That is all I have for you. Woo-hoo!